All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm being joined today by Charlie Hartwell. Charlie Hartwell is the managing partner of Bridge Builders Collaborative, a group of highly successful investors who have been investing in startup companies in the space of mental wellness, consciousness, and spirituality. I'm excited to have Charlie on the show just because of his background and the fact that he's investing in this, call it wellness space. Charlie is a Harvard graduate, and like I said, he's investing in a, I want to say, a unique area, and I'm excited to have him on the show. Charlie Hartwell, welcome to Money for Lunch.
Thank you, Bert. It's good to be here. All
right, so talk about what it is you guys are doing there at Bridge Builders Collaborative, and again, you guys are investing in startup companies in the space of mental wellness, consciousness, and spirituality. It seems kind of a weird space for investing, doesn't it?
Well, no, it sure did when we started. So about 10 years ago, my wife got me into this space. I described it at the time to be in this sort of contemplative practice, mindfulness, mind training space. And I met these three investors, a guy named Jeff Walker, a guy named Scott Krins, a guy named Austin Hurst, who had been involved in the Mind and Life Institute, which had been doing a lot of the research behind contemplative practice, mindfulness, compassion. And they asked themselves the question whether or not there would be anything to invest in. The research was getting, so sophisticated that they wanted to figure out if there was a way to bring it out to the world. So they hired me and asked me to go see if there was any companies to invest in. 9 years later, we've made 15 investments. I would say of some of the original platforms that we invested in, maybe 100 million people are meditating that weren't meditating before. Our companies, having invested in 15 of them, some of the companies are now becoming household names. Some of the companies have software that's being approved by the FDA to be used as either a drug or in concert with a drug. And so the space actually has been really fun to invest in because we were the first investors in the space and have picked a lot of the interesting companies. And so, I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, no, it's fine. And so you mentioned a couple of these companies are fairly popular. You said you use the term household names. Can you name a couple of them?
Yeah. So there's a company called Headspace, which really sort of rebranded meditation and made it accessible, to the modern world. A company called Insight Timer has like 10,000 spiritual teachers and an audience of 17 million that have downloaded the platform. It's it's sort of the largest conscious library on the planet. Company called Happify Health, which is actually, and another company called Pear Therapeutics, which are actually sort of software as drugs. They've got, like, Pear Therapeutics has got 3 FDA approvals for software that treats, 2 of them treat addiction, 1 of them treats schizophrenia. And another company called the Muse, which is a brain sensing headband, fits on like a pair of glasses, and you can sort of read your brain waves and learn to meditate and get real-time feedback on what your brain state is as you're interacting with the software.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. All right, so I want to tell our audience a little bit more about you. As I mentioned earlier, you're a Harvard Business School graduate, and you've served and led and have led organizations in 14 different industries, including starting a nonprofit in the slums of Kenya in 1986 that has now served healthcare to several million patients. That's remarkable. You also founded the first for-profit expedition company in U.S. history to promote the Bancroft Arneson expedition, historical 17,000-mile crossing of Antarctica by 2 women who became the first to cross the continent on foot. That is remarkable. And talk a little bit about that. How did you make that a for-profit business transaction?
Well, first of all, I just want to say it was a 1,700-mile journey, which in itself is pretty amazing. So,
Yes.
so I met this woman, Anne Bancroft. Anne was the first woman to ever ski to the North Pole, and at the time, the only woman who had skied to both the North and South Poles. And she had wanted, her next thing is she wanted to, be the first woman to cross the continent of Antarctica. So her specialty was that, she loves exploring. And when I heard the model that she'd done all this work at, she's a former school teacher. She'd been going around to schools, with these very generous kids, giving her nickels and dimes and quarters and people donating to a nonprofit. And she would do these remarkable inspirational journeys, and she'd come back in debt. So when I met her, I had this very emotional professional moment where I met her and I heard what she wanted to do. It completely resonated with what I wanted to do. I knew nothing about expeditions, but I knew about marketing. And like a business plan just popped into my head. She describes in her book that her fax machine just started going off because I was like faxing her a business plan. And I invited her to, co-found this company with me and to do this, to do the expedition very different. So to use this remarkable expedition that she did with this woman, Liv Arneson from Norway, and to really make it a global movement around inspiring girls and women around the planet. Really, the question was, if these two women can ski 1,700 miles, pulling 250-pound sleds from sea level to 10,000 feet, average temperatures -20 for 90 days, then what can I do? What's my expedition? So we went out and pitched sponsors like Volvo, Motorola, Apple, Pfizer, CNN was a partner. And, we really turned this into a sponsorship model to help use the expedition as a metaphor to create this global movement. And at a time when, we were competing against women's sports in 1998, women's sports were nowhere near what they were today. The women's soccer team had just won the first World Cup, I believe. The WNBA was just starting. So we were out pitching against other mostly male-dominated sporting events, and we got these amazing sponsors to join this journey to try to inspire people.
That's incredible. There's a couple of lessons there. Is that you can take anything with the right point of view, the right position, and really turn it into a profit. I mean, getting sponsorships. It's what do you call it? It is a spin that most nonprofits don't think about. And so congratulations. That's just a fantastic expedition.
It was great. Yeah, really great. And I'll just say, to add to what you said, it really takes a team. And what Ann and I were able to do was to recruit this amazing team to help support this journey from a technical PR, marketing, logistics. I mean, the logistics behind that expedition, were incredible. To pull that off, the types of things you have to do to make that work were incredible. So really, it's about a mission, it's about inspiration, and then it's about the team that comes together to create the movement or the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So what is Bridge Builders Collaborative, and what change are you trying to make in the world?
So Bridge Builders Collaborative is a group of currently 9 investors who came together wanting to invest in trying to help the world improve its mental health, improve their people, or invite people to connect more deeply to themselves, to improve relationships, to help kind of wake people up to who they are, what their purpose is, and what they can do in their life. And the reason they came together, I mean, they're all successful enough investors where they could do this on their own, but they thought through collaboration, they would make better decisions and have fun doing this versus if they just did it on their own. So we've become, came together to invest in startup companies, normally around, sort of Series A. When companies have achieved like $1 million in revenue, we provide growth capital to help them get to the next level and try to create global change.
Yeah, that just blows me away that you guys came together and said, "Hey, this is where we want to focus." I mean, I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think that it's something that is badly needed. There's such a huge push and reliance on pills, and something as simple as meditation is considered woo-woo, and it's kind of neglected by most people, including the medical community.
Yeah, that's all changing. So, you see, actually, most athletes now use meditation. Many sports teams have a meditation coach. There are, major celebrities who are involved in, in using these tools. Many companies now are focused on these areas as part of wellness. They've included mindfulness or mind training or mental health as part of looking at wellness. I mean, when we started off on this, everyone thought wellness was about physical fitness. And what we're learning is that wellness is really about physical fitness. It's about, nutrition. It's about social relationships. It's about how you're training your mind. It's really about your mental health. And it's about, whether you're connected to yourself and to something sort of greater than yourself. So we're trying to help that global movement along through investing in these startup companies. And we're seeing these things, get into Fortune 500 companies through insurance companies are now putting these as on their platforms. They're going to start reimbursing for them. Half of it's not the same necessarily in our government, but half of the parliamentarians in the United Kingdom have been through a mindfulness program. So it's really actually spreading quite quickly, and in schools, businesses, and in the healthcare system.
And when you say mindfulness, what do you mean by mindfulness?
There's so many different definitions of that, but I'd say one of the best one is like paying attention in the moment, like being in the moment and paying attention non-judgmentally to whatever's happening in the moment.
Yeah. I like what you said there at the end, non-judgmentally. I think that when we're able to observe things, and again, in a non-judgmental situation, it just changes everything. When you look at the problems that we have in America, globally even, a lot of them come because people have judgments tied to them, and they're willing to go to war and fight their neighbor, and and all this craziness that humans do because they have attached so much judgment to it.
Yeah, you could sort of choose to live in a place of duality where there's right and wrong and where you're judging things to be good or bad, or you can live in a place that's not duality where you just observe what's kind of happening around it and make choices as to what to do in any situation, and not judge people or make people wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think part of the work we want to do is to help provide invitations to think about that differently, so that we're not, saying you're right, I'm wrong, and doing exactly what you're doing, which has led to so many of our wars.
Right, exactly. All right, so back to your investment. When you get involved in a company, I know you mentioned you give them money. Obviously, anything else that you provide for these investment companies?
Yeah, I'd say there's a few things. So first of all, our 9 partners have remarkable business careers in a multitude of different industries. So one of the things we provide, is counsel and uh, or advice or wisdom, just based on our own experience. So that's one thing. Another thing is we provide connections. So, because of the work we do, I and we are connected to, some of the world's leading spiritual teachers. We're connected to a lot of people in, big business. We're connected to entrepreneurs. We're connected to other investors who might be interested in the space. So we can, and some of the leading scientists on the planet studying this stuff. So we provide connections, which can be transformative for some of these companies. We also provide, credibility. So, I've looked at 1,000 companies probably in the space, probably more than that. We've made 15 investments. When we've gone through that process, and we're pretty well known in our space of, of being one of the leading investors, if not the leading investor in the space, we provide credibility for somebody to be able to say that we're investors. It really helps them in a multitude of different ways. And when I look at those things as value added, then for us, like the cash that we provide is actually the least value added. The way we view it, cash is not that important as far as versus the other things we can do to help businesses.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you said that because look, if I can go to you and you're able to walk me through a process that helps me avoid big mistakes, or you are able to make a connection that helps me move forward, by a year or two, that becomes priceless, right? I mean, that mentorship, those connections, those are things that are hard to come by.
Yeah, it is. And Bert, to answer that question, it's interesting. I talked to some entrepreneurs that wouldn't necessarily value that. There's some people that just want the money and think that they're right.
Yeah.
And they just want to move forward with it. And that's one choice, but that doesn't really work for us. We want to feel as though we're partners in a business, and when we make an investment, we tend to stay involved for a long period of time, and we really want to have fun with the entrepreneur, and we want to create impact with the entrepreneur, and then we want to make money with the entrepreneur. And for us, it's not just fun that we're making money, it's fun that the entrepreneur is making money. And if we can increase the value of their business together, that's remarkably fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what kind of companies do you look for to invest in? You mentioned that they have to have at least $1 million in revenue. What else are you looking for?
So the first thing we're looking for is impact. So impact is a screen for us. So I look at a platform or a service or something, and I say, if I can imagine investing in this company and it grows, can it become scalable enough and can we create global impact? So that's the first screen is impact. The second is really about the CEO. And we ask a question in our line of work in particular, has the CEO actually done the work and are they integrated to be a leader? So if you're pitching mindfulness and you're not an expert at mindfulness, but you've got, I've seen people that went to a meditation retreat for a weekend, their life was changed. They work in Silicon Valley. They know how to launch global platforms. To me, that doesn't work. I really want to see people that are integrated in the work that they've done. Because if you're gonna try to change the world, first change yourself. So look for integrated, curious leaders who are collaborative and it'd be fun to work with. Then we ask the question, okay, so I'll just call it a moat. What's the moat around the business? It's either intellectual property or a large audience, or what makes it hard to compete against this so that it's not something that you can just come in and easily compete or take the position, of the company. What's unique? What's the special sauce of the company? We look at the team behind it. We go through a lot of due diligence to ask technical questions, and then at the end of the day, we ask if we invest in this, can we see making significant return on our investment? And that's usually the last question that we need to satisfy, but it's an important question for us as well.
Sure. I mean, absolutely. I mean, again, you're investing to get that return. How important is that leader, the CEO of the company? If everything else is there, but for whatever reason, you mentioned the CEO is maybe not aligned in his work or her work, or maybe you're not gelling with the CEO, would that kill the deal?
Kill it immediately.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Because Bert, for us, we're not in it just to make money. We're not in it to just say, hey, take our money and show us, huge valuation down the road. That just does not, that doesn't work for us. So that resonance is incredibly important to us. And it's got to be something, because we have, many different folks involved from our side. It's got to be something that, that we sort of all agree to as well. So it's not just me looking at that person. It's our other partner looking and finding out whether or not if somebody believes they have all the answers, it's just not going to work for us. And by the way, we don't feel like we need to be right, nor do we think that our advice is always the best. We're actually very happy when somebody says, you provided me with this advice and I thought about it and I don't agree with you, and here's why. We're fine with that. That's it. We don't need to be right, in charge. We're not in charge of any of our companies. We sit on boards of several of them, but we do need it. We do need a collaborative leader. That's absolutely essential, and one who has a managed ego.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, especially in the mindfulness space. I like the way that term that you use, a managed ego. Coachability and humility is such an important thing. It's hard to work with somebody who's always right, who knows it all, who can't take anybody else's point of view or consider anybody else's point of view. Those are such big turnoffs for me, and I imagine that's something that you guys look at.
Life's too short.
Yeah, life's too short. All right. Okay, so I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about your work in Kenya. Specifically, as I mentioned in the top of the show, you got involved in the slums of Kenya. Talk about what work you did, what got you there. Talk about that experience.
So when I got out of college, I put a backpack on my back and I traveled around the world for a year, and I kind of got odd jobs in remote places. The last place that I went to was in Nairobi, and I had known some people that were working for an organization there, and they set me up to do an internship to be a social worker in the slums. So I lived and worked in the slums. I was a social worker. I did not like social work at all. I learned that about myself. It's not a gift that I have, but I really was passionate about creating change. And the way that I could think about creating change was to start an organization, to help create difference, and then, do the work to find, to find money to run the business, to train the folks in Kenya, how to run the business. So I started this organization in 1986 with a friend of mine from college and a Kenyan. And I came back to America. I was working on Wall Street during the day. I was starting this organization at night. I worked for 9 years helping to build the organization. I lived there once. Well, actually, I lived there twice in Nairobi, but I was working and running the business with my other partner from the U.S., at least the fundraising side and the marketing side of the business. 9 years afterwards, my partner and I turned it over to the Kenyans because we just didn't like the model of having Americans telling them how to run their business. And the way they ran their business wasn't necessarily the way we would, culturally. So we just said it's better if we turn it over. And then, I took my kids and my wife back for the 35th anniversary of the organization, and just amazing to watch they've got 7 centers. They have they had the first maternity wards in any slum of Africa that I know of. They had some of the first eye doctors and dentists in the slums. They had the first ambulance in the slums, and one of only 2 ambulances in the entire country of Kenya. And so they, once we turned it over, they really built the organization to something that was serving an incredible number of people in the areas where they didn't previously have healthcare, or where they would have to go, into the city, to a hospital that was way overcrowded. So that's kind of the journey with this organization called Provide International.
Provide International. That's an awesome story. I mean, think about that. Just from an impact point of view, here you, at a very early age, you started impacting the lives of thousands of people. That's incredible. I mean, that is incredible. How many of us, live a life where we have just such a small impact on people, and here you are, you and your business partner were able to impact, again, who knows at this point, right? Tens of thousands of people. You're talking about maternity and an ambulance and eye care. That's a huge impact.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this is another, piece for me. So my wife actually got involved in another organization in Kenya that was called Give Us Wings, and this operated in the rural parts of Uganda and Kenya. And what they would do was go into the communities and ask the women in the communities, what do you need for the community? And so when we went back for the 35th anniversary and we brought our 3 kids, they got to see these remarkably different models. And it actually, to me, is, it's kind of a lesson. So the business that I started had served millions of people. And I honor and acknowledge that. But when we walk through the communities that, where I used to work, I would take the bus, I would be by myself, I would be the only white person, I would feel safe. And when I went back with my kids, all these years later, they had healthcare, but the model was very much a male-driven, patriarchal model of telling the community what they need. It's like, you need a maternity ward, you need this, you need an ambulance. And when I went back to the community, we had to have armed guards with our kids because it wasn't safe. When we went to the rural communities, in this place where an organization was going and asking the women, what do you need? The whole community was like transformed, empowered. There was a whole different feeling in the community because they felt heard and seen and acknowledged. And it wasn't sort of this model of, I know what you need. It was a model of, somebody's listening to me and providing me what I need. And now we have the tools to help bring change in our community. And it was remarkably different to see those 2 organizations.
Yeah, that is very interesting. Listening to that story, I'm just, reminded that, again, men and women think differently. Men and women have different gifts, different strengths. And also, what an interesting, strategy. Here's what you need, let me tell you, versus what is it you need, and I'm seeing if I can help you with that. it's just it's such a different strategy, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different organizational model as well. So if I go back to my Harvard Business School days, when I went to Harvard, they were teaching this top down, one man on top telling the whole organization what to do. And what we're finding now is the models, that really work best are these bottom up models where everyone knows the mission of the organization and everybody brings their talents, and they're not told what to do. They're actually told they're actually told to go do what they know to do best, and to keep people informed and to be collaborating. And this is from my perspective, this is the model of the future.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this. So you have Bridge Builders Collaborative, and then you have another company that you and I talked just a tinsy-wincy bit about called Shifted. What are the two different companies?
Yeah, so Shifted Institute is a company that my wife and I started. Our mission is to ignite consciousness, to inspire human potential, and to create paradigm shifts. And the way that I do that is really through my work at Bridge Builders Collaborative. That's 95 to 90, plus percent of what I do for Shifted. My wife and business partner, she is also a Bridge Builder collaborative partner, but she she does a lot of client work. She advises organizations. She's a trained therapist. She works with individuals. She's more of a mystic. She asks remarkable questions. She she provides advice and works directly with clients. So our work is different, and at the same time, our mission is the same. And she also advises me in the work that I do, and helps me and some of the CEOs of the companies that we work with, because she's just remarkably gifted at seeing things that other people don't see and asking powerful questions that help people to transform.
So what do you see in the future as far as this wellness, mindfulness space? What do you hope to see in the future?
That's a really good question. So about a year and a half ago, my wife said to me, or maybe it was 2 years ago, Charlie, you've been investing in the gateway drugs to higher level of consciousness, and it's time to go deeper. And when I'm smart, I listen to my wife and integrate what she says, because she's very wise. And so we set that intention together. And we met, and all of a sudden a new partner came into our life, a guy named Bo Shao, who just launched a $100 million fund of his own that was really about consciousness and spirituality. And he joined our collaborative as a partner. And then all of our existing partners got together and said, look, we've invested in this movement. It doesn't need our capital anymore. There's plenty of money that's chasing mindfulness deals. How do we go deeper? How do we make more of an impact? So, to answer your question about what's the future, I'll just tell you some of the things that that I'm focused on today. I've been looking quite a bit at the emerging psychedelic assisted therapy market. The research is indicating that for mental health, some of the plant-based medicines that have been used, culturally for years, when used with a therapist, are some of the most transformative mental health models. So we've been looking at how we can support the emergence of that. We invested in a company out of Canada called True Love. True Love is a female entrepreneur who has worked in many game companies over her life, and basically all of our games are programmed by males and in a model that's all about the fight or flight part of the brain. Her company, True Love, is about a whole different way of gaming, which is about tending and befriending, which is a much more feminine driven model. females have sort of been left out of the gaming world, or many feel left out. So this is a way of addressing that. I'm also looking at a lot of companies around sort of social wellness. So we've lost touch of how to have relationships and how to be in relationships. So we want to support the emergence of social wellness as a component of wellness. And the last thing they'll say about wellness is it's early stages, but there's been a lot of research done on sort of the biofield science or the subtle energy system of the human body. And some of our partners are supporting the emergence of that research. And if we can prove, and some studies are showing we can, that our energy systems can help heal each other, then, that also can be sort of a revolution in health. So, so these are all things that we're looking at off on the horizon as to how we think we can go and support deeper models of mental health, deeper models of consciousness and self-awareness.
Yeah, what's interesting is I want to say, at least for me, my interpretation is the last 3, 4, 5 years or so, we've been seeing a massive uptick about mental health awareness, and we're starting to really focus on, mental healing, for lack of better terms. We always look at, there's a lot of books on business and leadership and fitness and what do you call it, athletics, about, the mind, whatever the mind can see, it can achieve. And when you start, when people have talked about using the mind to heal the body, it's gotten some pushback, but I think now that's kind of breaking away, and it's become almost not quite mainstream, but it's starting to become, I think it's almost there. I think that we are just scratching the surface of what our minds are capable of doing.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's our perspective. And we want to support ways for people to be able to get through some of the suffering that causes them not to be mentally well.
Yeah.
And to provide invitations to go to the places that we had a lot of stigma about mental health, and we still do in this country.
Right.
And we want to invite people to be able to say, hey, this is, if you have a mental health issue, you're just part of tens and hundreds of millions of other people that have that issue. It's okay. Let's provide you some support. Let's make it okay for you to go through that process. And on the other side of that, I think we do find that our minds are like you were saying, they're powerful things. We don't necessarily know everything, about what is possible through our minds, through our energy systems, etc. But then let's bring science into the equation to help take what people might have thought, is science fiction, and let's prove the benefits. And if there are these benefits, then we actually, as a society, can really shift from a place where people are really struggling in their lives because of depression or anxiety or massive stress. And that really prevents them from being their most authentic self or living in their purpose or just, enjoying their life. So we hope to help provide invitations to transform that. Yeah,
Charlie Hartwell, I'm excited about the work you're doing. And if somebody wants to reach out to Charlie and his team, you can go to bbcollaborative.com. And this is, fascinating that you guys are doing this. And I'd love to bring you back and maybe later on and get an update to some of the success that you guys are having.
That'd be great, Bert. Thank you for the conversation today.
You bet. Thank you.